Well, it's time for another match day in the Premier League as we've got a full midweek edition of Premier League fixtures across Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday in the first week of this April. It's a very big one for Luton Town who travel to Arsenal. Obviously not expecting a result, but we'll go and preview that game in a moment. We'll also give our predictions for all of the other matches taking place this midweek. As always, I'll encourage you to give your score predictions in the comments as well. And if you beat or match my score, you'll get a shout out in the next recap, which will be on Friday, looking ahead to the weekend's action, including Luton Town versus Bournemouth. But for now, let's go and look ahead, before we do any of that, to Luton Town's trip to Arsenal, because this is a huge game at what is a side competing for the league title and a side battling against relegation. Now, it's not just the fact that it's near the top v near the bottom. It's the fact that Arsenal, bar one player, are back to full fitness and Luton Town are now without 13 players after more problems over the international break and during the Spurs game. It's looking a little bit difficult now, and it did affect the style that Luton played away at Tottenham Hotspur. Reverted almost to what we saw earlier in the season, where there wasn't that high intensity, there wasn't the high press. It was very much after the early goal from Talif Chong, sitting in a slightly deeper shape, trying to soak up a bit of pressure and protect centre-halves who are not naturally centre-halves. Issa Kabore again, I know unfortunate with the own goal, but did a largely solid job back there, as he did in the Forest game the week before the international break. Hashioka obviously forced on after Burke's injury as well. We're just starting to run out of players, so hopefully one or two will be back soon. Even if they're close, they won't be risked in this game. We'll get through it with what we've got, see what the score is. And then I think anyone who's nearly fit will maybe get a run out against Bournemouth instead at the weekend, which is a much bigger game with 4 home games to come against bottom half teams in the battle for survival. What we have got to look at though is where the threats may come from both teams here, because in addition to Luton Town sitting back and soaking up pressure, trying to hit on the counter-attack, it's actually what their opponents in midweek did. They went away to Manchester City, got a 0-0 draw I think they'll be absolutely thrilled with. And while they didn't really open City up many times, they didn't have a lot of the ball, they didn't have many forward runs or chances. They also didn't face a huge amount of clear chances. One good effort from a set piece and a couple of late flurries, but City overall were pretty toothless against them, which Arsenal will consider a job well done. But a fully fit Arsenal against a Luton side with less than half of their players available does start to look a bit of an ominous task, doesn't it? So I'm hoping that we'll be able to keep the result creditable. Of course, Luton have been competitive against most of the big teams this year, not lost a game in the league by more than 3 goals. Gave Arsenal one hell of a scare in a reverse fixture at Kenilworth Road, which was also a midweek one, of course. That game finished 4-3. I'm not sure Luton are going to have the attacking threat to score 3 in this game. No Adebayo, no Ogbene for that pace on the break, several other attacking injuries too. And of course, virtually no centre-halves available, down to just Mengi, I think, now. So that is the worry looking ahead to midweek. Can we keep it respectable? Can we keep it sensible? I think you're going to see Luton play without the ball for the most part, maybe show a little bit more caution, as we saw to an extent against Spurs, and as we saw in those early games of the season, where it's trying not to get opened up, as much as that's not a way Rob Edwards likes to play. So we're probably not going to see the best of Luton. Are we going to see the best of Arsenal? They've got a big Premier League game coming up the weekend. They've then got the Champions League to worry about as well. I'm not sure we're going to see them playing everyone as well. I think we might see 3 or 4 changes. Of course, Saka limped off quite late on against City. Not sure whether he'll make it. I think there will be 3 or 4 changes. But ultimately, given the state of Luton's squad on Wednesday night and the fact that no one will be risked if they've got a chance of being fit for the Bournemouth game, I do feel that Arsenal will win whatever side they put out. I'm not sure this is going to be one of the most competitive Luton performances this season, but all will be forgiven if there's a result against Bournemouth on the Saturday and if 2 or 3 players can make it back fit for that, even on the bench. For this game, I'm going to go for damage limitation, both physically in terms of style and also in terms of scoreline. I do think Arsenal will win. They've been monstrous from set pieces this year. Luton defensively have not been great from them. They've been good going forward, but how many will we get? And will we break down a very tough Arsenal defence? I'm not so sure. David Raya obviously made a couple of mistakes in a reverse fixture, but I don't think he'll be tested as much here. I'm unfortunately going to go for a pretty comfortable home win. I'm going to go for Arsenal to match our highest defeat this season by beating us by 3-0. But with that out the way, let's move on to the rest of the midweek fixtures and give our predictions for those. And to do that, we've got to have a look back to the weekend and see how we got on in match day 30, where for me, it was close on a few occasions, but overall, just one perfect score and 7 points in total. I correctly called the Forest 1-1 draw against Crystal Palace, in addition to a point for the wins for Bournemouth, for Spurs against Luton, for Villa against Wolves, and Liverpool against Brighton. That gave me 7, which put me in joint third place among the commenters this week. We've got Kieran and Reese, who are level with me on 7 points. Well done to both of you. Just pipping me into second is Kurt, who got 8 overall this weekend, but back in form. Steve at the top, 11 points in double figures. A cracking effort from you in match day 30, but can you all back it up for this midweek fixture list? Get your predictions for match day 31 down in the comments below. While you do so, these are the scores that I've gone for. A couple of standout results, a couple of thrilling games. I'm taking a couple of gambles here. So in the first game on Tuesday night, I've gone for Newcastle United to beat Everton by 2-1. Can I just say Newcastle West Ham? What a game of football it was. The one referee mistake on each side evened them out. And it was a great game of football. Brilliant to watch. Newcastle struggling a little defensively, but Everton won't overcommit going forward. They're on an awful run. They do produce the odd brilliant away display. I think Newcastle will have enough here, and Harvey Barnes being back is a massive plus. Forest v Fulham is a worrying one for me as a Luton fan. Fulham showed their defensive fragility away from home at Sheffield United. This occasion, I don't think Forest will give them as many gifts late on. I'm actually going to go for Forest to win by 2-0 reluctantly. I've gone for Bournemouth and Crystal Palace to draw 1-1 because Palace and 1-1 draws, they just seem fairly common against anyone outside the top 6, don't they? They're just doing enough to get away from trouble at the minute. Burnley versus Wolves. Great effort from Burnley away at Stamford Bridge. A really decent result there with 10 men for the most part. Such a soft penalty as well. How it was a yellow card challenge too, I don't know. Wolves have struggled a little more against the bottom sides this year. It depends how aggressive Burnley are. If they make mistakes at the back trying to play out, Wolves could take advantage. But they've got a few injuries as well. And not having a focal point with a senior striker is costing them. So I think they'll get pegged back for a 1-1 draw here. West Ham United v Spurs. I think we're going to see a very different game to what West Ham had against Newcastle. They were comfortable and cruising, and somehow it just all slipped away from them. Calvin Phillips, the unluckiest man in the world. It was never a penalty against him, in my opinion. If anything, he's fouled when he's trying to clear the ball. For Spurs, they're a funny old side. They do struggle in some of these games. Away from home at times, they've struggled to get in behind, and of course, they rely on their pace on the break. The likes of Son, Werner getting in behind Brennan Johnson too. So they're going to be relying on someone like Kulusevski to unlock a door. And I'm not sure whether they will. I can see this being a Davy Moyes special and a 1-0 win for West Ham. Arsenal Luton, you know, I've gone for 3-0 on Wednesday night. Brentford versus Brighton. Gone for a 2-1 away win here. I actually thought Brighton looked a lot better against Liverpool. I know they were still vulnerable defensively in the second half, and they will give up a few chances to Brentford, but they themselves were pretty poor in front of goal after dominating a game against Manchester United. Did great to get that late equaliser after conceding what looked like a late winner though. On this occasion, I just feel Brighton will be able to expose Brentford's defence, and as a result, I'm going to go for a 2-1 away win here. Manchester City v Villa. Villa are very different prospects on the road. Villa's home performance against City was probably one of the best Premier League performances of the season. I don't see the same here. Rodri's fit. City will be back in form. I know they had a frustrating day against Arsenal, but I don't see that twice in a row. If they get the first goal, I think it'll be comfortable. I'm going for City by 3-1. Liverpool Sheffield United. I do want to give some credit to the visitors because they're showing a bit of fight, they're showing a bit of attacking intent, but defensively, still awful, unfortunately, and threw away a 3-1 lead at home to Fulham was a great opportunity to get the result. Liverpool, I think, will be rampant. They missed a load of chances on Sunday. They're not going to be like that twice in a row. Salah's getting sharper after injury. There are other players who have had a little bit of a rest now, such as Harvey Elliott. I think Liverpool win really strong in this one by 5-1. Then the final game on Thursday night, I've gone for the same Chelsea score, but a different performance. They play much better against the top half teams at home. They have a much better shape, but United will be a threat on the break, and Chelsea do leave those fullback areas exposed, which will allow Garnacho on Rashford's space, or Anthony if he plays as well. But then Chelsea will have the advantage through the middle, where United just don't have the defensive acumen. They're so soft through the middle of the park. And the likes of Cole Palmer is the shining light of this Chelsea team this season. So I think both attacks will win out in this game. And as a result, and finishing with a 2-2 draw on Thursday. Those are my predictions for matchday 31. No, do you agree or disagree with them? Let me know in the comments below. More importantly, give me your predictions for this matchday's action. If you beat or match it, you get a shout out on Friday in the next recap, where we'll preview Saturday and Sunday's action. But for now, a massive thank you for watching as always. If you enjoyed it, please do put a thumbs up on the video. You can find our Easter Monday Championship predictions to see how well we've got on there up in the eye above. There's also plenty more to come over the rest of the week and a couple of away trips in the next few weeks too, so keep your eyes peeled for those. If you want to stay up to date with everything as the season comes to a thrilling climax, then subscribe and turn that notification bell on. But for now, thank you very much for watching as always. Good luck to Luton on Wednesday night. We're going to need it with the amount of injuries we've got, but I'll sacrifice any score here to beat Bournemouth on Saturday, and that will give us a real chance in the battle against relegation.